If anyone thinks here, again, that the European Union or Europe as a whole can defend itself without the US, keep on dreaming. You can't. We can't. We need each other. And why do we need each other? I tell you. First of all, because also the US needs NATO. For the US to stay safe, and by the way, Arctic region is evidence here, they need a secure Arctic, they need a secure Euro-Atlantic, and they also need a secure Europe. So the US has every interest in NATO as much as Canada and the European NATO allies. But for Europe, if you really want to go it alone, and those of you who are planning for that, forget that you can ever get there with 5%. It will be 10%. You have to build up your own nuclear capability. That costs billions and billions of euros. You will lose then, in that scenario, you would lose the ultimate guarantor of our freedom, which is the US nuclear umbrella. My relationship with the president, hey, listen, if somebody is doing good stuff, and President Trump is doing a lot of good stuff, I believe. I know I'm irritating a lot of you again, but I think so. Because, as I said also in Davos, the 2% reached by all NATO countries now at the end of 2025 would never, ever, ever have happened without Trump. Do you really think that Spain and Italy and Belgium and Canada would have decided to move from 1.5 to 2%? Italy spending 10 billion more now on defense at the beginning of the year without President Trump? No way, it would not have happened. And do you really think that in The Hague we would have come to the 5% commitment without President Trump? No way.
Prince Harry is the latest to criticise Donald Trump for remarks about NATO troops that served in Afghanistan. The US president suggesting America never needed their support.
I've always said, will they be there if we ever needed them? And that's really the ultimate test. And I'm not sure of that. I know that we would have been there, or we would be there. But will they be there? And let's hope that that never happens. We've never needed them. We have never really asked anything of them. You know, they'll say they sent some troops to Afghanistan or this or that. And they did. They stayed a little back, a little off the front lines.
A brief history lesson for all of us now. NATO's Article 5, which calls on all members to respond to an attack on any one of them, has been invoked once in the bloc's 75-year history. And it came after the attack on the World Trade Center on September 11th, 2001. More than 150,000 British military personnel were deployed to Afghanistan. 457 of those were killed, while more than 150 Canadians, 90 French troops and 44 Danes also lost their lives. And despite not being part of the NATO alliance, more than 40 Australians were also killed during the war on terror. The comments of Donald Trump have been criticised by representatives of several NATO members, including bipartisan condemnation from political leaders in the UK.
So I consider President Trump's remarks to be insulting and frankly appalling. And I'm not surprised they've caused such hurt to the loved ones of those who were killed or injured.
And I think it is a disgrace to denigrate their memory like that. Every November, we celebrate our fallen. It's not just World War I or World War II. It is more recent conflicts like Iraq and Afghanistan. And I think that there is too much careless talk from President Trump. He clearly doesn't know the history.
In the past hour, Prince Harry, who served in Afghanistan and lost friends there, also released a statement which read, in part, in 2001, NATO invoked Article 5 for the first and only time in history. It meant that every allied nation was obliged to stand with the United States in Afghanistan in pursuit of our shared security. Allies answered that call. Those sacrifices deserve to be spoken about truthfully and with respect, as we all remain united and loyal to the defence of diplomacy and peace.
you'd have to be barking mad to try and take another country, but that's what Donald Trump has floated, even going as far as to warn he could invade the island nation of Greenland belonging to Denmark. The left are, of course, having a meltdown. No country is safe. Trump is a dictator. The man is crazy, so they say. Now, while I agree he can't just go around claiming countries, but like him or loathe him, this was about Trump showing the world why he really knows the art of the deal. You see, weeks after announcing his Greenland intentions and threatening to impose tariffs on countries who don't back him, Trump arrived at the World Economic Forum in Davos on Thursday, bringing peace with NATO leaders.
We probably won't get anything unless I decide to use excessive strength and force where we would be, frankly, unstoppable. But I won't do that.
It was over before it had even begun. Trump knew how to scare EU leaders into cutting him a deal by simply pretending he was indeed barking mad. Ambassador John Bolton was the US president's national security advisor turned Trump critic after the pair had a very public falling out. Does he have a point on this issue? You decide.
I think all of this was unnecessary. His threats to use military force against a treaty ally, to threaten more tariffs against European countries, really have caused a lot of damage to the NATO alliance. I think worried our allies around the rest of the world. And we never needed to do any of this. As I told Trump back in 2019, when he asked me to study the possibility of buying Greenland the first time. There's a 1951 treaty with Denmark called the Defense of Greenland Treaty that gives us the ability to do a lot of what we need to do in Greenland and Alaska and Canada and Norway to defend NATO interests from Chinese and Russian threats. And we could have done this, we could have started it anyway 6 years ago. We appear to be on the path now to do it. I don't want to draw any final conclusions, but we've done it after causing unnecessary pain and strain in the NATO alliance that I think is really very damaging. I think this is part of the problem of making up policy as he goes along, making it by the seat of his pants, as we say. It's not there's not a clear decision-making approach weighing the costs and benefits of different ways to approach the matter. It's just Trump on the spur of the moment thinking that he'll do whatever occurs to him. And that's, I think, typical of much of his decision-making in domestic as well as international affairs. And I think ultimately it's very damaging to the United States because people say, what is this man thinking of? And he himself doesn't often know. He was asked by a reporter about a week or 2 weeks ago, well, why do you think the U.S. has to own Greenland? And he said, we need it psychologically. We don't need it psychologically. We don't own the countries, any other countries where we have military bases. I think what he was really saying, he was giving the game away. It was psychologically necessary for him, not for American national security.